Roopa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're the Managing Director and CEO of CRISIL and Regional Head for South Asia for Standard & Poor's. Tell me a little about what you do in that role.
As the CEO of CRISIL, I head a global analytical company. We are India's largest rating agency. We are also the leading provider of research and analysis to the world's largest banks and leading corporations. We work with them in the areas of equity research, derivatives research, fixed income research, etc. In addition to that, we also have a policy advisory business which works with governments in India and in 22 other emerging market countries in the area of infrastructure privatization.
Okay. So in general, ratings are sort of a summary picture, right? Talk about what role they play sort of in the markets. Why are they needed?
A rating, in a very simply put, is an opinion, an independent opinion on the degree of risk involved in timely payment of principal and interest on a debt instrument. So the value that ratings add is first, by virtue of their independence. They are not expected to be a substitute for investors or banks' own due diligence and own analysis, but they are an additional opinion which provides insight, and the value that they have is by virtue of being independent opinions. What ratings help markets do is price risk. What ratings help markets do is get benchmarks across a range of companies, across industries, across sectors, and across countries. So they play a very important role in improving the transparency in markets, in helping pricing, and in ensuring comparability across a global market.
And are there differences in how ratings are determined in different parts of the world, in different regions? Can you talk about that?
Yes. Typically, it would depend on whether you're looking at a global rating agency like Standard & Poor's, or you're looking at a national rating agency like CRISIL. For Standard & Poor's, the rating methodology and the rating process is designed to ensure comparability of ratings globally, across sectors, across industries, and across countries. So Standard & Poor's rates entities on a global scale which is common across the world. When you come to national rating agencies like CRISIL, we rate companies on a national scale, and the assumption in our ratings is that the government of India, in its capacity as a sovereign, is AAA. So the purpose of a national scale rating is to provide analysis and insight for rupee denominated debt raised in India for Indian investors. So global ratings and national ratings have different roles to play, and they can coexist.
Ratings have been criticized of late as potentially having been a factor in the recession. Talk a little bit about your take on that. Are they truly independent? How would you, counter that assertion?
Yes, indeed, there has been a lot of debate and discussion about the role of rating agencies in the global financial crisis. And I will take this question in two parts. One is, what have been our learnings from what happened? And two is, I'll address some of the fundamental issues that keep coming up about conflict of interest that rating agencies face. The first issue, in terms of what have been our learnings. At CRISIL, I think one of the things we saw and one of our takeaways from the global financial crisis is that it is very important for rating agencies to be, one, transparent about the assumptions that go into the analysis, and two, to communicate continuously to the market and to the investors as to what their thinking is. So what have we done after the global financial crisis? We have considerably stepped up our conversations and our dialogue with the investor community. We make sure that we talk a lot about our criteria, our analytical process, so that people have a deeper understanding of the same. And we make sure that we keep our portfolio under surveillance so that we are sending out timely alerts to the market. On the issue of conflict of interest in rating agencies, the main issue is really that the conflict exists because issuers pay rating agencies to assign them ratings. The question is, are there any other business models that are superior? And I think what people tend to underestimate, that the biggest advantage of an issuer pays model is that the issuer pays model allows ratings to be available free of charge to investors across the world on a whole variety of companies. If there were only investors paying for a rating, then only those investors who paid for the rating would actually get the rating. And what that would mean is that this whole transparency that rating agencies bring to the markets by putting out comparable information on so many companies would not be available. So the greatest benefit of the issuer pays model is that it increases availability and transparency and makes available ratings free of charge to investors across the world. Now, having said that, does a conflict exist? It does, and therefore, just like conflicts in every other part of financial services, they have to be managed. How do rating agencies therefore manage the conflict? We at CRISIL, for example, have a very clear separation between business development and commercial issues as well as analytical issues. An analyst's compensation is in no way determined by the rating assigned or by the amount debt or by the quantum of debt rated or any such parameter. The ratings themselves are assigned through a multi-layer process and through a committee process, so that no one individual can bias the rating in any particular manner. So there are several checks and balances that are put into place to manage the conflict. And I think that is something which rating agencies take very seriously, because at the end of the day, what they have to ride on is only their reputation.
When a ratings agency upgrades or downgrades the debt of a country, what effects or implications might that have sort of on the marketplace?
I think the same effect that it has when a rating agency upgrades or downgrades the rating on a corporate or on a bank or on a municipality. And a rating upgrades indicates that the probability of default or the degree of risk is lower than it was earlier. And a downgrade indicates that the degree of risk is greater than it was before the downgrade happened. What that typically tends to affect is the price at which the entity can borrow. So generally, rating changes do have an impact on the cost of borrowings. In some markets, they could also affect the availability of funding available to a particular issue or a particular entity.
Okay. And to go to a more personal question, you have a background, I believe, in statistics. What got you interested in working in ratings?
Well, I went to business school, and after that, clearly a career in finance was something that was very appealing. What has really inspired me to stay on for so long in a company like CRISIL is actually the role that we play in making markets function better. It is the culture that we have in the company which encourages, which is a true meritocracy, where you're encouraged to think, you're encouraged to debate issues, where the power of what you say and the idea is more important than who you are. I think it's that culture really, and it is the impact that we have on markets that has kept me for so long here.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.